Yo, what's up guys? You got PokeGame here. Today we're going to be talking about the recent ban that we had in Pokemon Sword and Shield. RU, Barraskewda, and Centiskorch were both voted on by the RU Council, and they were banned. They also voted on Indeedee, Alolan Raichu, and Salazzle. Those three were not voted banned. But let's talk a little bit about Barraskewda, and then we'll talk a little bit about Centiskorch and whether I agree or disagree. And we'll go from there. Now, Barraskewda is one of the fastest Pokemon in the RU tier. In fact, if it runs Adamant, it's only outsped by 2 Pokemon, if I'm not mistaken, which is Jolly Bolton and Aselgor. So, Choice Band and Life Orb Barraskewda were very, very strong. And some of the initial responses to this Pokemon, in fact, the main initial response to this Pokemon actually rose up, which was Mantine. So Mantine was no longer RU, which made Barraskewda have a lot more freedom in spamming Liquidation since the Water Absorb Pokemon was gone. Now, granted, RU does have a few physically defensive Pokemon, mainly Vileplume, that can come in on Barraskewda's Life Orb Liquidation, Life Orb Close Combat, Choice Band Liquidation, Choice Band Close Combat. However, if the Pokemon that is Barraskewda, I don't know why I said it like that, I messed it up, tried to work back into it. If Barraskewda ended up catching Vileplume with a Life Orb Psychic Fangs, or even a Choice Band one, even if it's physically defensive, it was 2-hit KO'd. So, I think the premise was that Barraskewda was very fast, though it could be revenge killed. With the right prediction, it was very hard to switch into. So that's like my understanding of Barraskewda. And I played quite a bit of RU on the low. You know, RU was like favorite tier last generation, so I wanted to play a little bit. So shout out to Cyrus for giving me some teams. And I'll probably be bringing some to the channel as well, but I want to get really high up on the ladder too. But yeah, from me playing too, Barraskewda was definitely, I want to say, at least low-key broken. Even when I was either using or playing it. It always had to do with, okay, well, is it going for Liquidation here? Do I go Vileplume or does it Psychic Fangs? Do I go Steelix, and does Steelix come in and take a Liquidation and get 2-hit KO'd, etc., etc.? I think one of the true answers to it in the tier is Gastrodon, which, if physically defensive, it's not 2-hit KO'd by even like Adamant Close Combat from Choice Band. So that's like the closest thing you can get to a counter. And besides that, it's checks for Choice Scarf Pokemon, right? So like Choice Scarf Passimian could easily revenge kill it because Barraskewda was not bulky. So we'll see a little bit what a few people have to say. Ajna actually put no ban. He's a friend of mine. This mod is absolutely fine for the meta. It's fun, fast breaker. It's literal definition of a glass cannon. Life Orb is far too weak to warrant it being called unhealthy. And CB is incredibly prediction reliant. Now I do agree. Yeah, obviously it's incredibly prediction reliant. But I mean, if you get that play right, if you hit Vileplume with Psychic Fangs once, you're able to spam Liquidation later, even if they switch out. But it does have good defensive checks like Justin and Vileplume, again, if they get the play right. And then Toxic Girl, Whimsicott, and Scarf Rillaboom are also. So he put no ban, which is interesting. I do want to know your guys' thoughts, by the way, on these, so please let me know them. As far as BL Knights go, I don't know if I'll be able to convince Blunder to record. Because, I mean, he likes Barraskewda, but he definitely don't like Centiskorch. Because the last time he used Centiskorch, oh, I mean, he used to lead off with it, it would just die. Maybe I'll cut to a clip if I can find it. But let's see what Evie has to say. Barraskewda's counterplay involves so many guessing games that it's a bit difficult for me to see the positives to bring to the tier. While those guessing games can definitely be a two-way street, as Barraskewda's bulk is completely non-existent and a bad prediction can set it back significantly, its power and unmatched speed gives you a lot more pressure to build against it. Additionally, its reliable answers are extremely passive, which is a very notable issue in a metagame that got a lot more fast-paced with the newest shifts as the linchpin of the tier moved away from Mantine. Linchpin from the... I actually haven't heard that word. I mean, I understand what it means, but a Mantine balance to whatever this is. Oh, I've never heard the word. But yeah, so I mean, again, like they're kind of both saying the same thing, but Ajna's more on the side that it's prediction based and it's okay because it's a glass cannon, so it can be revenge killed. Whereas Evie's saying, well, yes, that is, it can do that. It's also just as likely that the user using it can also basically get away with that. So, yeah. What do you guys think about Barraskewda, though? Again, it's interesting because, like, this Pokemon in OU, when it was in OU, it's crazy when we go back to the history of Barraskewda, right? Because when you go back to the beginning of Sword and Shield, first off, there was a few things messed up with Showdown. Max Knuckle was 140 base power, which is the first thing that was messed up, right? That was ridiculous. So this mon was ridiculous under Dynamax, and then it had Hydro Vortex. Sorry, I played some National Dex Suspect yesterday, so Z moves came back. But Max Geyser, right? Max Geyser setting up its own rain, getting its Swift Swim, and being able to 2-hit KO like Rotom with Max Geyser, or Max Knuckle giving it +1 attack, being able to do a Toxapex. You see this Pokemon that was such a threat, Dynamax gets banned, and it just continues to fall, and like it fell from UU as well. And now in RU, where it was deemed by 6 out of 11, so it was voted banned, it was deemed unhealthy, or it was deemed to be too much for the metagame. It wasn't even on rain teams, but it was just Barraskewda as its own glass cannon, as its own physical attacker. So I think that's just very interesting to see the history behind this Pokemon. I actually want to do like a series. Let me know your thoughts on that, by the way. I know we're like going all over this place, but this is just stuff that comes. This is all improv, right? I think a little bit about it, and I just go with whatever I feel. But I would love to know your thoughts on, like, would you like to know the history of the Pokemon in the metagame? I'm not saying like my boy Fall Swipe. Big shout out to Kellen. Not saying like him, but like based on my personal experience and how this Pokemon was shaped and things like that. I wouldn't go too deep. Obviously, like he goes in, and Kevin writes some great stuff for him as well. Like it's awesome. I love his content. But yeah, so for the most part, a lot of them are saying ban, and a lot of the do not bans. I wanted to read what Fellyburn has to say real quick. Now this one is interesting. Ever since Barra dropped, as we thought it was going to be a broken fast break with a few counters, even Mantine dropped to ban a double edge, and now that Mantine is gone, it can run other moves to not take recoil and increase its longevity. Surprisingly, on paper, this mon did get better without Mantine, but as usual, it falls short in practice. Gelatin becoming a very good water type in the tier, and Gastrodon Toxical Rising usage both put a stop to it and prevent it from spamming the water stab. I think only Gastrodon again is a true answer to that from that list. Jellicent is 2-hit KO by Crunch. Toxic dies to Psychic Fangs. Gastrodon is a true answer though. Unless he gets crit, of course, or like hazards are up. Prevented from spamming the water moves. It sounds like there's a little counterplay to it, but the meta is offensive enough to where it barely gets chances to be sent in. Personally, voting not to ban it, despite it being obvious to this Pokemon, has gotten better. Now, I want us to remember that line. But the meta is offensive enough to where it barely gets chances to be sent in. I want to remember that because now we're about to go to Centiskorch, and I'm actually not into the Centiskorch ban. And we'll explain why. But Centiskorch got banned. Basically, the reasoning, and we'll see what Ajna has to say right here, and we're going to read it, and then we're going to go off it. But this mon lacks any form of reliable, viable switch-ins. I disagree, in terms of viability anyway. Couple this with its good bulk and decent speed tier, and this mon feels like a very clear-cut ban for me. It has perfect coverage between Fire, Stab, Power Up, and Knockoff, and the mon that we should be able to check it with, like Zard, are incredibly crippled by Knockoff. I don't see how this mon leads to a fun, playable metagame. I'm going to go to Fellyburns as well real quick. He put ban as well. Now finally, the one mon that I want gone. This mon has no guaranteed switching because it can just knock all of them off, or Fire Lash defense dropped into Power Whip KO. It's really absurd because it has a good typing in Fire and Bug. With Boots in this generation, it really only has knockoff to worry about. Decent bulk, so it finds a lot of opportunities to switch in, and Fire Lash always dropping defense means answers can't really take another hit safely after coming in, and like things like that. Thick fat Snorlax, right, doesn't want to take hits after its defense. Just to give you an example, basically everyone trying to fit Rock Slide on every mon just has to do something to KO it, and even then it can switch out so easily because of Boots. I felt this tier would be better without it. Now, here's my thoughts on Centiskorch, and I know Evie also put do not ban. I don't think that it was. Well, here's a few things. First off, it's restricted to Boots, right? So it's restricted to using heavy boots. Why? Because Stealth Rock is a thing and it'll take 50%. So that's fine. I mean, that worked for Volcarona, didn't need it. But I mean, this isn't Volcarona. This isn't OU. You don't have every literal Pokemon in the game available to defog and do whatever you want. So it's limited to boots, right? So it can't be Choice Band, it can't be Choice Scarf. You know what it's going to do. It's going to be boots no matter what, right? It's strong at 361 attack, but it's not that strong in the sense that it can really break through. You know, it's clear answers. Colossal, Charizard, right? Just to name like even Cramorant, right? Unless it's running like Thunderfang. Even Cramorant could be an answer. And yes, Cramorant is a viable Pokemon. I don't care what anybody says. Cramorant is a viable Pokemon. And it's very prone to being revenge killed. And even the Pokemon that it's supposed to deal with, it doesn't appreciate switching in on them. For example, Vileplume, you don't come in very safely with Centiskorch on Vileplume clicking Sludge Bomb, right? Even if it's like a more bulkier variant, you're still doing about 30-something%. You get the poison. You eat a Fire Lash from Centiskorch 1. You can stress that back. Has to fear Sleep Powder unless it's Restorative Coil. Colossal can infinitely come in, set up rocks and spin. It's not hard to run Rock Slide as a coverage move. Passimian, for instance, one doesn't care about Fire Lash because you're raising its attack by lowering it. It can knock off. Knockoff is something that's ran in the tier. And I think one of the lines that I agree with Felly from what that Feli said about Barraskewda that I agree with is something that kind of goes against like Center Scorch just coming in on things. But here it is. It sounds like there's little counterplay to it, but the meta is offensive enough to where it barely gets chances to be sent in. And I feel like that kind of is similar to Center Scorch, even with Flash Fire, where it's supposed to counter Ninetales. A Nasty Plot Ninetales with Psy Shock can, like, fire types check it back, right? Can 2-hit KO Center Scorch. So there's just like some ideas right there. And I want to read what Evie has to say about the Do Not Ban. I actually don't see it with this mon. Yes, it's quite strong, albeit more so because Fire Lash is a really good stop. And again, it's that. But it's very slow for the meta, and honestly, the typing isn't particularly great either. And that's a big thing. If the meta is fast, if a mon is very good, it's just, if it's not able to get off its hits, you know, it can't do anything, right? It can't even come in on Steelix. Steelix Earthquake does a ton. It doesn't knock out Steelix back. Some Steelix run Head Smash as well for Xatu, which is ran, and that bops that too. Like, I don't know. I keep going. While yes, you see some overprep in terms of running Rock Slide on your Silvali's that are already resisted by it, Flying, Water, Rock weaknesses are terrible in this metagame, and Knockoff, while great on it, is also the worst nemesis. So practically, Center Scorch doesn't win the matchup against any fire we have, despite the Flash Fire ability, and all fighting types can easily wreck it with Knockoff. It also is falling prey to the fact that spikes are back in form, like Qwilfish and Garbodor, which can make it a bit of a hindrance since it really struggles to keep itself healthy enough, and removal is really poor with it. Great overall mon, but it's definitely not the metagame restriction I see it made out to be for me, and I do agree with Evie right here. I seriously do agree with that. And after using and after playing Center Scorch, I've never felt that it was something that was too much to the point, too restricting, right? And it's, I mean, I don't think it's the best mon in the tier at all. I think Indeedee is like top mon. I think Vileplume is one of the top mons in the tier ever. And, you know, even being able to, you're supposed to quote-unquote check Vileplume. Well, you're supposed to be an answer to Vileplume. You come in and Sludge Bomb 30% poison, you know. Like, what, you rest, you knock off as I go out to my answer to be able to deal with you? Yes, a boosted Center Scorch can be scary, but, I mean, will it get very many opportunities? And it's not, like, I don't know. I think it was a really solid mon, but I don't even think it was the most threatening fire type we have in the tier. And like, I mean, you have Zard, you have Ninetales, just to name like two. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of against the Center Scorch ban. I don't agree with it, and which is funny because it's actually the, as you see right here, if we go through all these, it's actually the ban that most people agree with, besides Alolan Raichu, which people voted no ban. But yeah, what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about the Center Scorch ban? What do you guys think about the Barraskewda ban? I feel like the Barraskewda ban made more sense. I think the Center Scorch ban was a little bit iffy in my opinion. Like, even, like, what is, it doesn't even come in on any of these guys. Even Salazzle, like, he has to worry about Sludge Wave or Toxic. Yes, Salazzle getting knocked sucks, obviously, especially if it's running heavy duty boots or Black Sludge with Subtoxic or whatever. Or whether it be Nasty Plot or that set. And if, I guess the Center Scorch's rest, it can beat them. But I don't know. I just kind of don't feel like it was too much for the tier. I'm fine with the no Salazzle ban. It still does have checks. Yes, you're pretty much forced to run like Snorlax, Rhydon, Jellicent, and other rock types. Gastrodon too, but there's a plethora of mons that can deal with this mon. Though it's very strong in the sense that, well, it's strong because of the way the Pokemon we have left. But it's also weak because it doesn't have access to Hidden Power, which is a huge thing, right? Not having to deal with Salazzle with Hidden Power Grass is amazing because the Pokemon I just mentioned become answers. I know Raichu was something that was also very interesting in the tier. It's strong, it's fast. That's crazy that the Raichu, like, even being RU, is funny. Like, last gen, what was it? PU? NU? I think it was PU at some point. I don't know. I remember fighting in a PU live. I could have been wrong. But yeah, I want to know your thoughts. Again, I think the Barraskewda ban makes sense. I don't think the Center Scorch ban was necessary. I think that it has trouble switching in on a lot of Pokemon, and it gets revenge kill pretty easily. And if it gets knocked off, that's a wrap. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you guys next time. I'll have another video up later today. We'll be playing maybe some OU or something. I don't know. I think something would suck. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, my friends.